Broadcasting to you live from the Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, somewhere out there. My name is Brian Engelman. Today is Monday, December the 29th, 2025, and this right here that you are watching today is called the TNAM Daily Show. That means the new American media, TNAM, the news always matters, the new American media, because the old American media has failed you. All of those things. On today's program, we're going to discuss the ways that the Democrats have destroyed America. You look at what's happening across the globe, and it is an importation of foreign forces, military-aged men. It is a long-term plan to fundamentally transform the United States of America. We're 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. Did you vote for that? Did you want fundamental transformation, or did you want restoration? To just some basic guidelines. You know, nobody really wants anyone all up on their stuff, giving anyone a hard time. You know, people just, for the most part, have a right to be left alone. And you arrest the people that are causing problems. You arrest the people causing problems. And if they're not too, you know, you go, hey, come on, let's work together. It doesn't need to be like this. But if there's bad guys that keep being bad guys and they keep doing really bad things, or sometimes they do something so bad the first time, you just say, you've lost your free range privileges. Well, what do you do with that? What do you do there? Well, if you're a member of the deep state Democrats, you just keep re-releasing the bad guys to terrorize the neighborhood. It's your brown shirts, it's your domestic army, professional, on-the-call terrorists, just ready to loot and plunder, cause chaos. You saw what the Democrats did to fund this. Remember the Minnesota Freedom Fund? Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, Joe Biden, the Democrat Party, Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters. Go down the laundry list of usual suspects. Go down the laundry list. And what were they doing? They were trying to destabilize the nation. And what have they been doing since? When they conquered the nation, what did they do? They said, well, we need to import a demographic that is going to vote for us so that we can maintain power. And so that's what they did. Tens of millions of people, unvetted, illegal alien invaders, brought in, paid for. It's a shell game. All right, so we're going to get funding. Then we're going to give it to this housing fund. Then they're going to give it to this fund. Then they're going to give it to this immigration fund. And then they're going to... You had just an absolute honeycomb of fraud. Someone reaches in your back pocket. They take a buck or two out. They hand it to the next person who takes a buck or two out. They hand it to the next person. They take a buck or two out. Buck or two out. A buck or two out. 10% for the big guy. And Tim Walz, out of nowhere. The guy didn't make sense as a pick. Kamala Harris didn't make sense as a pick, except that they're very controllable puppets for the agenda. They'll sell their own team out for a few bucks, some pieces of silver. Maybe that's one of the things you'll do, is you'll help design a system that makes it easy for bad guys to sneak in. And then you demonize ICE for getting the bad guys out. Well, they're not all bad guys. Yeah, well, they all came in a bad way. You go back out, you go to the front door, you show your ID, you pay your cover charge. We make sure you're not on the list of people that this chain of restaurants and bars has a list of people. We had problems with these people. Don't let them in your club either. They're bad for the area. Maybe you make enough You found a way to make money selling your country out. Maybe you're a lobbyist. Maybe you're a politician. Maybe you're a theoretical idealist. I don't know. There's lots of different groups of people. And if you find your way in the world and you're fat and happy, you're never faced with the concept of being wrong. You can't step back and see the reflection of yourself. You can't see how you're viewed from another perspective. So there's different levels to this. People that have convinced themselves that they're not doing anything wrong. People that anybody can twist themselves into a pretzel if you're making enough money. And then there's straight up traitors. People that know damn well what they're doing. They don't care. What do I care about America? It's just a place. Pay me. I want some houses. I want some vacations. I want some fancy clothes. I want fancy dinners. I want to feel important. Just pay me. The Pelosi's, the Kinzingers, the Schiffs, the Schumers. Oh, there's a ton. The Liz Cheneys. And they're part of a system that maybe they were born into this system and they don't know anything different. They're 3-4 generations of Bushes, Cheneys, is. And that's the old guard. The Democrats. I mean, it is a criminal organization. Creatively stealing money, creatively abusing an asylum system that was never intended to be this way. Abusing a border, literally lifting the wire up with heavy machinery to let swarms of people flood through, unvetted for COVID, unvetted for health, at a time when you're losing your job and being forced to pump something into your body that you don't. Now I'm good. I'm going to make a choice to not participate in that, and I have every right to control my rights in that regard. Well, you can't work, you can't earn money. By the way, you can't talk about it on social media or else you'll be removed. And so after what many have described 2020 to have been a coup, a hostile takeover, the only free and fair election in the history of elections. Oh, totally legitimate. By the way, here's the time where I'll tell you to go get countervailing views on anything regarding health and elections. cdc.gov, who.int, and cisa.gov/rumor control. Get your countervailing views, because see, I'm sort of forced to say things like that, or else, you know what? You're not allowed to earn a living. Speaking of which, hit like, hit subscribe, share the show with a friend, let the ads play. It's like tossing pennies in the wishing well. All right, countervailing views at the bottom of the screen. Let me also share you my tip jars right here at the bottom of the screen. Monthly subscribers, it's the end of a month. You can still get in for December. Actually, that reminds me, I think I need to make a second upload. I usually do 2 uploads in Patreon per month. So it's like a $10 subscription or $100, $1,000 a month. That's the way to bypass the censorship that you can't talk about on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Google. Twitter, you weren't allowed to talk either. Now it's X, and I can temporarily, but Patreon is perhaps the best, most direct way you can fund your boy if you like the program. If you like 15 years of independent media, covering stories that we think are underreported, super significant, super interesting, instead of just reading you a script that's been carefully curated by the powers that be to just deliver you some vomitous official narrative that may or may not resemble reality. That's what we do here. These are the things we discuss. And when we see all the Somali fraud up in Minneapolis, you go, yep. For decades, I've been hearing complaints about what's happening with Somali fraud in Columbus. We saw Springfield, Ohio. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They said, sir, why are they eating the geese? tens of thousands of Haitians for some reason. For some reason. No, it's industry. Because of industry. They need workers. They need workers. Yeah, we have humans on Earth that are looking for work. Are you looking for slave labor? Are you looking for workers? What is the game plan here? Fundamental transformation of America through mass migration. It's not a migration crisis. This is a highly funded, multi-decade long plan. What do they say? If you want to plan for a generation or for a year, you plant wheat. For 10 years, you plant trees. And for 20 years, you plant men. I don't know, something like that. We are uncovering so many problems in this country, and it's difficult to feel a sense of positivity or hope when you see a lack of accountability. If there's obvious criminality occurring, you expect to see some repercussions. You expect to see a recalibration. Make it a point to say that we're not doing this. We're not going to tolerate this. We're not going to allow this. And we're a year into President Trump's current term. Is this his third term, as some say? Right. Yeah, trust the plan that nobody is ever held accountable for anything. Trust that plan. Yeah, there's like a secret plan where everyone gets away with it forever. No, we're going to keep stringing you along every year like it's a Candace Owens episode. No, we'll get to the receipts. No, I got total proof. No, it's like totally legit. I'll get right to it. Okay. Trust the plan. No, the white hats. No, it's a plan that nobody ever gets held accountable. Okay, that seems legit. Well, no, they don't have enough power yet. They don't have enough. Okay. So anyway, we're going to break down the obvious areas of criminality that we found, in part thanks to Nick Shirley's videos. We've been playing them here on the TNAM Daily Show. I think we played them on Friday. I think it's north of 120 million views. And we're also going to scan the news, see if there's anything else worth talking about. If there is, tag us on X at American_media_, and tell us why you think a story is important. We'll try to hit it. We're going to be a little bit more rapid fire today. We're going to have a bit of a hard out. We're going to have about an hour or so, just a little bit more. Oh, by the way, everybody in chat, hello, everyone. Well, I haven't officially launched the show yet. How about this? I'll officially launch the show, and then we will get to chat, and then we're going to fly through the stories. Deal? Deal. Get it, got it good. The TNAM Daily Show, brought to you by the New American Media, begins right now.
Your guide to the truth, thenewamericanmedia.com.
All right, everyone. Hello, everyone in chat. Lake Leon, Trash Panda. What's up? Patriot Warrior, Deb. Good morning. John, everybody. What's up? Deb, how are we? Let's throw the comments on the screen here. Yeah, hit like, hit subscribe, share the show with a friend, share it out on Facebook, send a direct message to a couple of your smart friends, send a text message to some of your smart friends and family and be like, hey, get together and talk about the news. Jump in and join us. Deb says, good morning, Brianna. And everyone, Brianna. Oh, I'm so glad that's stuck in your head. Maybe I'll work that into part of my comedy routine. I don't know that I got to maybe work on the neck thing. Brianna. That was how I was accosted by an older lady because we were fixing up. I'll tell the quick story. I was the grounds committee director, the director of the grounds committee for 15 years in Los Angeles, and I lived in the hood. And when I got there, I quickly realized, wow, all right, there is some deferred maintenance. All you gotta do is look around. And one of the areas amongst many, I mean, roofing and driveways and paint and gutters and electrical and plumbing and just everything. Broken mailboxes. You couldn't even reach in without slicing your hand on twisted metal. Just everything was broken. And so one of the things we were doing was repairing all of the sprinklers because areas had burned out over time and it just neglected infrastructure for landscaping, as well as planter beds outside of the buildings. And so we were planting fresh flowers and setting drip timer automatic irrigation. So the water would only click on it like 1 in the morning or 3 in the morning for 5 minutes just to give enough water, but it's not going to get evaporated in the sun because they were doing a ton of water restrictions. But you could be clever and just water it anyway. But it had to be at the right time of day where nobody was out there. And just for a brief moment and then shut that down. Yeah, drip irrigation systems. We made urban gardens in the backyard laundry line areas. They were wasted space. So we took a ton of potted plants, put a drip irrigation system on. So at 3 in the morning, it would click on and the roots of all of these plants would get watered. And I mean, you could have these vast urban gardens right there in Los Angeles. Just kind of an incredible engineering feat that I'm super proud of, super happy with. But anyway, some lady came out and got mad that we were fixing the sprinklers and making things green and, you know, the busted up front planter box, missing 7 bricks and cracked. I'm like, fix that. Add some bricks, put some mortar in there, paste over that, like clean it up, make it look the best we can, and plant some things in here that are alive. So it feels good to come home. Why is all the paint peeling off? Paint the building. We did these things. We improved these communities, except for this lady. She did not appreciate it. It's going to get too expensive to be over here fixing everything up. We didn't want that. We didn't ask for that. We don't want that. This is the ghetto, Brianna. This is the ghetto, Brianna. I said, well, not anymore. No, it's not. It's a mindset. That's a mind virus. That is the communism. That is the dependence on government. That is it's a vicious cycle. You know, we get when people go through tough times. If you've been paid into a system your whole life and they're taking, you never even get to see it. It's confiscated right off the bat. You know, there's people that could use a little bit of assistance to get a game plan together, to stabilize, to help get through tough patches. But it's different when you're on 3-4 generations of it. And it becomes a way of life. And the Somali scam has been generations of scamming Democrats, professional scammers. Wait till you start picking the scab on California. If you think Minneapolis is bad, if you think Columbus is bad, it's all bad. And if we have resources, why aren't we training Americans to work in these factories? Well, they don't pay enough. Well, then they need to pay more. You want to go do your slave labor, go do it somewhere else. But you're not going to undercut workers being able to afford their lives because you're employing slave labor. You know, we're going to slap a tariff on it. You can't undercut us with slave labor wages. Everything's been out of balance, and you're looking at the budgets trying to figure out, where is all this money going to? Where is it coming from? How is this happening? Doge revealed some of it. Minneapolis revealed some of it. But yeah, you just look at Section 8. It's supposed to be, hey, all right, what can, and what has it turned into? A permanent way of life. It's not an ideal situation. Yeah, Barayana. This is the ghetto, Barayana. Said, no, not anymore. Ghetto's a fucking mindset. Paint the building and someone spray paint some bullshit on there. You go, all right, get them out. Get the painting crew out today. Boom, paint it over it. It's the broken window concept. You don't tolerate it. Yeah, spray paint. This is my ghetto. You go, paint it. Paint over it. Cat and mouse game. We can play this game all fucking day. It's just a mindset. And it is soul crushing. It is sad when you see lowered expectations. Anger at an attempt to improve. Anger at attempts for improvement. It's objectively better to pull in and not slam into a huge pothole. There's no objective, oh, it's worse because that's fixed. Anyway, that's what the Brian thing is for. All right, I can't do all the comments because I got too much news to do and I have a hard out today. I'll get back with you. I'm not entirely certain when Strictly Football is going to be. Maybe this week. Maybe it will be 3 p.m. tomorrow. Let me double check on that. I think tomorrow's show can be a full form show as well. Yeah, I know everybody's timing is off. Danette says, good morning. I woke up late today. I thought it was still morning. And yeah. Going to bed early, but then sleeping later. Whereas normally you get up at one time. Yeah, it's just, we all need to recalibrate. This is a time for recalibration in a lot of ways. As a nation, personally. Yep, I so wish I would have bought silver a few years ago. We're talking about a few pieces of silver. Judas liked his silver. Yeah, and I've got an alleged, I don't know, anarchist, anarcho-capitalist, libertarian type. But they're, in my opinion, enriching themselves at the expense of the nation and trying to multiply anti-ICE, it's really anti-bouncer. You want a bouncer at your country. You want to scan for the worst of the worst to make sure none of the wolves start lurking around, preying upon the people inside. And if your system doesn't allow that, I can only assume you've sold us out, or you have no ideals, you have no morals that you claim to, or you're legitimately a demon playing for the other team. It really narrows it down. So I've had a problem. I'm having some private conversations. Maybe I'll bring this public, and maybe we'll book a guest to unpack it. But there's a lot of people making a lot of money, and they're destroying this place. They're destroying this country. They're destroying. Look across the globe. It's an effort to overthrow nations permanently. Everything changed with Obama. Track the timeline back. Go back 20 years or so. Yeah, I so wish I would have bought silver a few years ago. What is the spot price of silver today? Let me check. It was what was it last time? 79, 71, 69. What was it? 80? Let's see if Grok is going to get me the answer to price at the close of each week in 2025. Whoa, early January it was $29. We've almost tripled. We're at 79. Prices hit 80. All right, so it's back down to 73 right now. Yeah, silver is moving. Hi-ho, silver away. And Tonto. Yep, 30 pieces of silver indeed. Used to be a silver stacker. What is a silver stacker? You worked at like a coin shop or something? They strategically pluck families on purpose to enrage parties going against each other instead of going against military-aged men and having those deported first. What's up, bud? You want to join the show today? Yeah, sort of. Okay, well, come on. The audience likes Mr. Bean. Come on. Pardon me. Well, he's the one that came over. Do you want to jump in the show? Come on. Come on. I'll get you. All right, we got a Bean sighting. Oh, Mr. Bean. 30 pieces of silver, indeed. Yeah, I just, I know lobbyists. I know NGO and nonprofit purveyors. I know people in various realms. And when it looks like they're supporting policies that are anti-common sense, I do sort of, I resent it. I'm not a fan. Hi, buddy. We are a fan of Mr. Bean, though. Mr. Bean. He comes up here every now and then. But hey, how about this? Let's jump into the stories. I could do the comments all day, but I just have to get to it. This is what everyone's talking about. I played it last week. But it's super important because it's everywhere.
Is there a reason why a 23-year-old YouTuber in a hoodie has done more in one day to expose Somali Democrat fraud than all the media combined?
Here in Minnesota, massive fraud is taking place within the government and the Somali population. Here, this building alone, Quality Learning Center, is a daycare, yet they spelled learning wrong and they said leering. This daycare alone in 2025 has received $1.9 million from the government. And the strange things about these childcare centers is there's no one here right now. It's midday on a weekday. If you were to try to go inside, it's completely closed and the windows are all blacked out. No one's working. Midday. Children should be in here. And this.
Okay, let me just say this though. Is it possible this is Christmas break and the schools are not in session? And so the daycare could be shut down for the holidays? Mr. Bean. I haven't heard that question asked, and I haven't heard that question answered, but that's question one I have here.
This place is licensed for 99 children, and this is the outside. There's no windows, no nothing. And like I said, they literally spelt the word wrong on their sign. This is...
I mean, it's so right in your face. It's not a learning center, it's a leering center. Guys, this is so blatant. Yes, Deb, only simpletons believe there's a plan. Yeah, well, this is the plan we're getting. We're getting the Minneapolis plan. That's what we're up to. Come on. Like, this isn't working.
Open and blatant fraud taking place here inside of Minnesota. The government is complicit with this, and this is just one of the hundreds of child daycare centers here inside of Minneapolis being ran by the Somali population. It's sad that it's happening here in Minnesota, and it stinks that it's happening and it's being labeled on the Somali population. However, that's just the facts of what's happening here inside of Minnesota. $1.9 million for this daycare center that can't even spell learning right.
Children here in your child care?
Which child care, Minnesota?
Minnesota Child Care right here. It's from the state of Minnesota's website. We're just wondering where the children are.
Where the children are?
Yeah, where are the children? It says you have 102 children here, and you got $2.66 million this year in funding, and $2.5 million last year. We're just wondering where the kids are.
And who are you?
My name is Nick Shirley.
Nick Shirley.
And where are you? Which department?
Oh, we are from ourselves.
Yeah.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going.
Is there a reason why a 23-year-old YouTuber in a
So I'm just wondering, where are the indictments? We say this all the time. This one right here, this is one theory as we still try to unpack what happened to Charlie. What is this? I used to live in a homeowners association. What a pain. Oh yeah. You can get it's a double-edged sword for sure. I know. How dare we clean the property up? That's the mindset, though. They didn't want to confront that. They didn't want to elevate their standard of living. And they were angry at you for doing so. It's a mind virus. Yeah, why are we talking about Taos, New Mexico? That is where I created the New American Media, in the Sangre de Cristos Mountains. And yes, Obama was the worst. All right. This is just the Charlie Kirk theory that it was this guy here. What do you think about this?
Great. Violence. Great. Violence. Great.
Palm pistol.
Violence. Great.
So, I don't know. People are talking about it.
I'm going to flash.
I'm not going to focus on it, but I'm curious your thoughts. What you think there? Coin roll hunting. Yes, we have done coin roll hunting. It's kind of great sometimes. All right, what is this? President Trump reposted this from the Oversight Committee.
Flash forward to 2 o'clock in the morning. At midnight, Trump was ahead 10%, which was an unusually high amount. To about 2 o'clock in the morning, my monitor went down. It totally rebooted. So unless you can tell me there wasn't a data dump, there wasn't a data breach, I don't believe that the numbers were true, because when I went home and woke up, all of a sudden Biden was ahead. We had processed 120,000 votes by midnight out of the 170,000 absentee ballots we were expecting. So I assumed we were missing about 50,000, and all of a sudden Biden was now missing. And Sidney Powell did discuss something about this in Rudy Giuliani's press conference, and I do believe I did witness that. And the voting
Binsfield office building in Lansing, Michigan. Are we going to have enough time to catch all of the fraud in this country, wherever it's at?
had stopped in the middle of the night. So unless you were one of the few processing tables, you would not have seen this rebooting of the laptops.
Thank you.
I'm gonna
All right, so let's see if anything is discovered on that. But President Trump is sharing that video. This is a video of Gothenburg, Sweden, allegedly. Smash and grabs. So when people say, why would you need a magazine that carries more than 10 rounds? You say, well, because there's organized crime rings of 30 or more people that you might need to defend yourself from. You can check out that video. Somalis opening a fake daycare in Minnesota.
Without much further ado, I give you the Derek Zoolander Center for Kids Who Can't Read Good.
When art imitates life. If you know, you know. Gentry Gevers posts this, that Somalians are now making jokes about the fraud.
I'm a Minnesota Somalian. Of course I live in a big house funded by United States taxpayers.
I'm a Minnesota Somalian. Of course we have the most luxurious cars.
I'm Minnesota Somali. I'm champion border. Hi.
I'm a Minnesota Somalian. Of course I married my sister to come here.
I'm a Minnesota Somalian. Of course I tell the government I feed 3,000 kids for no reason. Did you get the bill yet?
Hey, of course I'm a Minnesota Somali. Of course we live in Minneapolis, nigga.
Hey, get the...
I'm a Minnesota Somalian. Of course I got 12 siblings. I don't even know half of their names.
I'm a Minnesota Somali. Of course Minnesota Somalia was promised us 3,000 years ago.
Hi, Trump. I'm back so much.
Yep. TikTok. How confident are you that we're gonna restore the fraud? I mean, it's being mocked. Or are we just cooked? Tell us in the comments, agree or disagree that there's going to be justice for all of this fraud. Agree or disagree? I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, radical leftists over the past few months. All these robots. Yeah, we're for Ukraine. Whoa, wait, now we're for Mexico. Wait, now we're for Palestine. Nope, now we're for Somalia. Yeah, you're for whatever is against the American interest. We get it. You're anti-American. We get it now. Ben, what you doing? You want to? Okay. Well, thanks for joining. What's this? $100 billion universal daycare. New York City is about to have a lot of leering centers. Mom Donnie says soon we'll oversee a budget of more than $100 billion, and every dollar will reflect our commitment to working New Yorkers and delivering universal child care. Good thing some little New Yorkers gave me a counting lesson today. Oh, the fraud is going to be off the charts with that one. What's Erica Kirk saying here?
In August, before all this happened, he had a event where he had some donors at, and one of the first questions they asked was, God forbid if something happens to you, like what would happen next, the turning point? And Charlie made a really interesting point. He said companies, example, Apple, Macintosh, he said they're founder-led. He said, but what I have built will one day, if I'm not around, be vision-led. And he had made mention at the end, Erica will do a great job running it. In August, before all this happened, he had a event where he had some donors at, and one of the first questions they asked was, God forbid if something happens to you, like what would happen next, the turning point? And Charlie made a really interesting point. He said companies, example, Apple, Macintosh, he said they're founder-led. He said, but what I have built will one day, if I'm not around, be vision-led. And he had made mention at the end, Erica will do a great job running it. In August.
I'm not trying to play it a third time, but quite convenient. Was this the same meeting that Charlie referenced about being bullied and threatened? It's my comment there. Yeah, how convenient. Okay. So yeah, more on Nick Shirley. You get it. You have millions of dollars and you can't spell learning correctly. I mean, it's just so right in your face, everybody. Was this Stacey Abrams founded an NGO and 30 days later, was sent $2 billion by the Biden administration. As of today, December 27th of 25, she hasn't had to give a single penny back. Again, the Stacey Abrams NGO has not been required to return any portion of the $2 billion fund, according to Wall Street Apes. And this is a quote from Elon.
You know who complains the loudest? And
Okay. So there you go. Stacey Abrams, $2 billion. Where's that money? Dave Chappelle has a special out. You can watch it. I watched it. I will came to DC. He was talking trash about Trump and the National Guard for some reason, to stop crime and clean up. He says, I came here mad, ready to fight. But when I drove through the city, it looked clean, guys. I got to tell you, it looked clean. Yeah. This is the ghetto, David. David. All right. What is this? Approximately 1 million gallons of sulfuric acid spilled into the ship channel following a chemical leak in Channel View. Emergency response teams on site. Where was this at?
Holy shit.
30 minutes east of downtown Houston. So keep your eyes peeled on that. Sulfuric acid, 1 million gallons of it. I think it was 1 million gallons total, but not all of that got out. It was just, that was the incident. I think that's what they said. Matt Van Swole says, here's a list of the news outlets who have not covered Nick Shirley's fraud story. New York Times, CNN, Washington Post, MSNBC, NPR, USA Today, Reuters, Axios, ABC News, and PBS. Every single one of them wrote stories on Elon Musk's hand gesture. Do you get it yet? James O'Keefe says if arrests don't come in 2026, he'll start investigating the prosecutors themselves. 2026 will be the year of independent journalism takeover. Oilfield Rando says Saudi Arabia expels foreigners for panhandling. We can't even mass expel Somalis for participating in a massive election fraud for welfare fraud scheme in multiple states. We are not a serious country. Got to agree. Tampon Tim Waltz fails to apologize for the Somali fraud he allowed in his state. He didn't allow it. He participated in it. He looks like he dropped 20 pounds this week from stress.
What can you say about the latest on the Somali fraud that happened under your watch, sir?
Governor, have you been able to apologize yet to the people of Minnesota for allowing this Somali fraud to continue under your watch? Of the people of Minnesota.
Is it time to apologize? How about the whistleblowers that you have allegedly retaliated against? Would you like to respond to the whistleblowers?
And right now, our neighbors are being demonized. Our neighbors are being terrorized. Our neighbors are being picked up off the streets. The antidote to that is positive actions to improve lives that go against what they're trying to do. So instead of demonizing our Somali community, we're going to do more to welcome more in and welcome people back. Instead of coming.
Wow. Somali fraud. Immigrants throwing our generosity back in our faces by stealing from us, but it's a microcosm of a scam the Democrats have been running for decades.
So I'm just going to be real with you. Forgive me, but I just find this story so utterly infuriating. Think of all of the different ways that the American taxpayer was betrayed here by the Democrats who funneled billions of dollars to fake businesses and never once checked up to make sure they were legitimate, by the media that refused to cover it, by the immigrants themselves who were gifted by the generosity of the American people with the greatest privilege on earth, American citizenship, and then turned around and stole from us as thanks. It's so disgusting, but I think this is also a microcosm of a much bigger scam that the Democrats have been running for decades now, to where they welcomed in millions and millions of immigrants, both legal and illegal, who drove down the wages in America, especially for working class Americans, and drove up the cost of things like housing and healthcare and an education, the hallmarks of the American dream, making that totally out of reach for working class Americans. And then if those working class Americans had the temerity to object to their own disinheritance, rich Democrats would go on cable news and call them racists. It's so disgusting. The whole woke vocabulary was developed as a smokescreen for the mass fleecing of the American working class. And I think that is just a mirror image for what we're seeing with this Somali fraud. And
well said. Oh, that is so well said. It's all about power, control, manipulation, and getting you to sit down and shut up. I'm saying that to Nimbus, who's sitting down here. He stayed shut up, but he wanted to participate in the program, so we'll bring him up.
why people are so enraged about it, because they've been noticing this for so long and they were silenced if they called it out, and no more. I think that's what we're seeing right now in this moment. So I'm just going to be real with you. Forgive me, but I just find this story.
Well said. I love that. The update on the Houston major chemical leak at the BWC Terminals facility in Channel View, East Harris County, near the Houston Slip Channel. Collapsed catwalk, damaged sulfuric acid supply line, releasing 1 million gallons of spent sulfuric acid from a storage tank. Containment, the majority of the acid spilled in the facility's designated containment area. However, an unknown amount entered the Houston Ship Channel via the Jacinto Port Slip. Leak was stopped. The flow halted on December 27. 2 people hospitalized for respiratory issues, later released. 40 others evaluated, treated on site. Air monitoring, limited effects. No threat to the general public. But yeah, dig deeper on that one. That was Houston. All right, let's keep it rolling. Brendan Dilly says, the election fraud has been worse than you know. The welfare fraud has been worse than you know. The illegal immigrant invasion has been worse than you know. The market manipulation has been worse than you know. The whole corrupt system is getting exposed. Sassafras 84 says, taxes should be canceled for the foreseeable future. Not one more penny should be paid into the federal government until they can get their shit together. We're expected to balance our checkbooks. The same should be done with them. Fraud, scam, fraud, scam, fraud, scam, fraud, scam, fraud, scam, fraud, scam. Everywhere we look. Oh no, but now there's like 30 quadrillion trillions of dollars in debt. To who? To the assholes that were running these pirate schemes? Go get it from them. Don't take it from us. It's got nothing. What's that shit got to do with me? All your NGOs, all your nonprofit organizations, all of your theft, your fraud, your waste, your abuse. Yeah. 300 Guns is a great follow on Instagram, reminding us the Somalis didn't come up with this fraud scheme on their own. We just put Democrats. Exactly. And it's a global scam. What's this? Tim Cass talking about Dan Bongino.
Story about this. I guess it seems like they're not doing their jobs, and you know it's funny because I'm getting a lot of people are complaining because I said Dan Bongino did the best he could, and he's quitting. I assume you guys talked about this yesterday.
Yeah,
because he couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like the idea that Dan Bongino got there was like, all right, guys, now I'm going to be evil. I was like, yeah, that didn't happen.
Right.
Dan Bongino did not get hired by the FBI and say, now I'm going to pretend to do as much as I can while going to the beach and eating gingerbread.
Yeah.
No, he probably tried as hard as he could, and he couldn't do anything because the machine is crooked.
Right. Yeah.
So he's like, okay, I'm quitting after 8 months. What's the point?
I made the point on the Noon Live that him being in the FBI and now stepping back into the podcast space probably will be of more value to us than if he just continued.
Also scares the shit out of me, though.
I think so.
Like, dude, if not Dan Bongino, then who? You know what I mean?
Oh, that's a very salient question. Yeah.
He gets in there, gets nothing done. To be fair, Kash and Dan did a lot of street level policing, which is good. But look at this, these FBI guys walking around kicking snow.
Right.
What is this? The crazy story about.
If Dan can't fix it, what hope do we have? Georgia Secretary of State Raffensperger in the early morning hours.
Flipping in this election, but we shall see. Is Georgia and that state's
Let's remember how things happened.
Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger.
Trump 50.5%. 92% in, too close to call. Difference of 103,000.
Is with us now, Mr. Secretary. Good morning on a busy morning. I guess the big question is, Hoda?
Yeah, we want to know, when are we going to get your votes? When are we going to find out who's won your state?
Well, we have about 2% left to go. We had great success yesterday. We had 4.7 million voters that voted. Record breaker for us, beats the 4.1 in 2016. We also had average wait time of only 2 minutes, statewide average. We have about 2% left to go. And you can see where we are right now with the results that have been reported. I don't think it'll change any of the outcomes, but that's what really people that make those predictions do. What we'll do is get.
Well, that was interesting, though. We were just getting to the good part there. Because
And they dropped the call. They severed the call.
the Secretary of State said they got 2% left to count, Chuck. But he did not think it would change the outcome.
That's interesting.
But then he deferred to the prognosticators, which I think is over to you.
Look, I can just tell you what our models say is where those counties are. They are heavily Democratic counties. And it's the Atlanta number. So it is going to shrink.
Wow, they're doing damage control in real time, it seems.
Perhaps.
Imagine what they're telling them in their earpieces right now. This is all ad-libbed, and he looks super uncomfortable.
If I were an arbiter of an election result, I wouldn't want to be the one saying, yes, and when we count the vote, it'll change the result. I think his job is to be the umpire.
Well, let's ask Mr. Secretary, can you hear me now? You just were saying something.
I'm getting phone bombed or something.
Oh, okay. Well, fair. You're a busy guy. You're probably all your friends wanting to know the same thing we want to know, which is when is Georgia going to report its results? But you said something interesting, sir. You said 2% left to count. You didn't think, however, that it would be changing the outcome. Right. Is that based on your analysis of where those votes are outstanding, or are you just guessing it because of the fact that it's only 2%?
We don't guess. What we do is report. We just see where the candidates are right now in both presidential, congressional, senatorial, and you look at how many votes are out there. Even if one of the candidates got 100%, it probably wouldn't be enough to move it one way or the other.
Gotcha.
But it is what it is. We'll just wait till everything's done. The counties are working diligently.
Flipping in this election, but we shall see. Is Georgia and that state's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger is with us now. Mr. Secretary, good morning.
But sure enough, that changed, didn't it? Yeah, we were live streaming that night, ready to have some fancy bourbon, and we couldn't call it because they all paused. 5 or 6 states magically paused at the same time. First time in my lifetime I've ever watched that happen. Very coordinated, and they all flipped. Yeah, super believable. By the way, for countervailing views on anything regarding health and elections, go to cdc.gov, who.int, and cisa.gov/rumor control for countervailing views. Put the donation links at the bottom. Please consider subscribing to our Patreon page, our Rumble page, our YouTube page for the New American Media. We also have Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App for donations into the tip jar. I'm like the Salvation Army worker ringing a bell every day. I just show up and I ring the bell, and occasionally people walking in toss a few ducats into the bin. So if you're interested, please consider such. All right. So in October 20th of 23, Governor Tim Walz posted this on X. Minnesota's economy doesn't work without child care providers, so we're giving them a raise. Okay, that one aged really well, Tim Walz. Joey Manarino says, so basically I pay an exorbitant amount of money in taxes every year just so that the government can take that money and hand it to Somalians who create fake businesses and get funding from the government for them, all paid for by me and other hardworking Americans. Why the F am I still paying to these thieves? I'm not encouraging you to not pay. But these people are making points like it's outrageous that you want to confiscate resources that I have, resources I need for me, to fund that shit. Oh, hell no. There has to be an accounting for this. There has to be accountability for this. There simply has to. Yep, frauds instead of friends.
Nick Shirley, I hope you see this video.
I think I have this without the music. I'm going to play this later. Ankelini says, hey, don't panic, but the world is run by a 3,300-year-old inbred cult of Satan-worshipping pedos who are using blackmail and imaginary money to stay in power. Shit. Well, better do your push-ups. Shit. Well, okay. Hey, here's a reminder with Minneapolis. Here's the only Democrat that voted to stop healthcare theft going to illegal aliens. That person was Melissa Hortman, one of 67, the deciding vote. And right after she cast that vote, she was ended. She was taken out, assassinated in a hit. She knew it was coming. Listen to her voice.
I know that people will be hurt by that vote, and
She is quivering and shaking.
we worked very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision. I know that people will be hurt by that vote, and we worked very hard to try to get a budget deal.
Yeah, it is rotten in Minneapolis. I can't play this clip. The man who was in Nick Shirley's video has gone to 50 Somali daycares on his own, and not one has children. I go in the morning, afternoon, night. There are no kids there ever, he claims.
And the single biggest thing that they're worried about is that DOGE is going to turn off fraudulent payments of entitlements. I mean, everything from Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, disability, Small Business Administration loans, turn them off to illegals. This is the crux of the matter.
Yep.
Okay. This is the thing that why they really hate my guts and want me to die.
And do you think that's billions, hundreds of billions? What do you think the scale is of that?
I think across the country, it's well north of 100 billion, maybe 200 billion. By using entitlements fraud, the Democrats have been able to attract and retain vast numbers of illegal immigrants.
And buy voters.
And buy voters, exactly. The single biggest thing that they basically bring in, 10, 20 million people who are beholden to the Democrats for government handouts and will vote overwhelmingly Democrat, as has been demonstrated in California. This is
it's an election strategy. Yeah.
Yes.
It's power.
Yes. And it doesn't take much to turn the swing states blue. I mean, often a swing state might be won by 10, 20,000 votes.
Sure.
So if the Dems can bring in 200,000 illegals and over time get them legalized, not counting any cheating that takes place, because there is some cheating, but even without cheating, if you bring in illegals that are 10x the voter differential in a swing state, it will no longer be a swing state.
Right.
And the Dems will win all the swing states, just a matter of time, and America will be permanent, deep blue socialist state. The House, the Senate.
Yep.
They basically bring in, 10, 20 million people who are beholden to the Democrats for government handouts and will vote overwhelmingly Democrat, as has been demonstrated in California. This is
It's an election.
the presidency and the Supreme Court will all go hardcore down. They will then further cement that by bringing in even more aliens. So you can't vote your way out of it.
Their objective is to make it
one-party socialist state. And it'll be much worse in California because at least California is mitigated by the fact that someone can leave California.
Right, you can go to Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you
they're
did.
going to make everywhere California but worse. The presidency and the Supreme Court will all go.
Elon laying out what it is. Yeah, more than 100 million views, more than any of the daily readership of all the newspapers in America combined. The Somali fraud video. So where's the action? Kevin Bass says, I keep telling people they cannot comprehend how bad things are, but people just don't want to believe me. It's not just the welfare fraud. It's everything, everywhere. Something terrible has happened to this country. Alex Jones going max on Candace.
Let me give Candace Owens a little newsflash here. Bitch, you don't fucking sit up there on some hill and tell me who ate the cabbage. You don't sit there and tell me what to give you or what to do. You are suspect. You have the left boosting you, the left loving you, the left promoting you with your royal husband, who we're about to expose. So get ready for that, George. So we figured you out. We got your number, and you can't stand the fact that you've run this big psyop and now it's coming to an end. This isn't about protecting TPUSA or Trump or anybody. It's about protecting the truth. And it's about us not sitting there dancing to the Pied Piper's lie of what you've done. Let me give Candace Owens a little news.
So stay tuned. I don't know. I'm just watching it. CJ Pearson says, who knew that the easiest path to financial freedom and generational wealth was starting a Somalian daycare center in Tim Waltz's Minnesota? Who knew? Who knew? Jason Meister says, Rudy Giuliani. Let's try this again. Rudy Giuliani was charged with 13 felonies, found liable for $148 million in damages, and disbarred from D.C. and New York for disputing Georgia's election results. Over 5 years later, Fulton County Board of Elections admits that they violated the law by counting 315,000 early votes that were illegally certified during the 2020 election. This not only may have cost Trump the state, it also may have cost Republicans 2 Senate seats, which gave Democrats control in 2020. They bankrupted, disbarred, and criminally charged an American hero, and they should all be in prison, says Jason. Do you agree or disagree with Jason?
Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed.
Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed, says President Trump.
Once it sounds a little strange, but I was explaining to the president, President Putin was very generous in his feeling toward Ukraine succeeding, including supplying energy, electricity, and other things at very low prices. Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed. Once it sounds...
So we'll see.
Nick.
Nick Shirley on his viral video.
When I was your age, I used to watch all the local news stations, and every local news operation had a guy, a roving reporter, who would go around and find waste, fraud, and abuse. Are there local reporters like that in your area, and why do you think they weren't doing the work that you did?
I don't know. They're scared of being called nowadays. Because it's Somalians that are committing this fraud, people are scared to be called Islamophobic, racist, in which has nothing to do with what's going on, because fraud is fraud. It doesn't matter if it's a black person, white person, Asian person, Mexican. Fraud is fraud. And we work too hard simply just to be paying taxes and enabling fraud to be happening.
Nick, when I was your age, I used to watch all the local news stations.
Yep. Jason Bassler. No, but the point they're making is, where is all the other investigative journalists? Where are the other investigative journalists or the investigative journalism? Seems like this is pretty easy to catch. What's the problem? Jason Bassler says the Epstein files dropped and one of the most important names is still being ignored. Where is Sarah Kellen? Allegedly, Epstein's day-to-day assistant scheduled massages and coordinated travel for young women arriving at Epstein properties. Victims say she greeted them. What's the update there? Red Pill Truth 2024 says the Democrats created a committee on J6 and had subpoenas issued and hearings in a month. Republicans need to do the same and conduct a real accounting for America. Some may say it's a distraction, but it's not. This can be done in subcommittee. This includes calling Ray Epps in for testimony under oath and with immunity granted. The record needs to be set straight on why 260 FBI agents were assigned to be in the crowd with Trump supporters to simply listen to his speech. What was their assigned role and who gave the orders? What's going on with the pipe bomber? Accountability is needed for justice and a free future for this country.
So,
Mehek Cook, the attorney, is talking about the fraud happening in Ohio.
these individuals tried to report the fraud that was happening in Ohio.
And you look at the heaviest fraud states. I mean, think of just how crucial these are to the elections. All of these, the Ohio, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Minneapolis or Minnesota, Arizona, crucial. And you see this massive amount of fraud where it's happening in one big blue city. Look around every big blue city and find it. They can't get the support of the voting public, so they have to import people. They have to try to change this country from the inside out with long-term plans, and it's through theft of our funds that are needed to fund our veterans, our homeless, our American citizens that are already here. And they're selling out. They're selling you out. They're selling us out.
Ohio, and then eventually came to me to say that we're watching providers rubber stamp paperwork for home health. So in Ohio, and there's many states like this, Pennsylvania and other states too, where you can go in and you can say my aging parent needs a home health care and I want to provide it. So the state will, as long as a doctor has approved it, continue to pay you. It could be for 10 hours, 12 hours, up to 24 when it's critical care. So you could sit at home without caring for an elderly parent who really doesn't need it, make about $75,000 to $90,000 a year. Now you add two parents, that's $180,000. Now you add your in-laws, $250,000. You continue to add this and you wonder, what are the services being provided? So a lot of providers came and said, fraud is occurring because we said we weren't going to rubber stamp this paperwork, so they went to other providers. Their home healthcare network saying, we'll make it worth your while. Well, sounds like a kickback to me. So we really need to investigate the Medicaid system and how much it's increased since the Somalian population came and who really needs critical care, because that's meant for our disabled, our elderly, and people who really need it, not to just live off our system. And that's what's happening in Ohio. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's despicable, but authorities are now looking at it from the Attorney General's office to the U.S. Attorney's office. I flagged them all because this is Ohio tax dollars and we have to take it seriously. I'm tired of people telling me, well, this is the way it's always been. It's subjective and we can't really check. No, you can. Audit America, audit Ohio now. And I'm pushing for that in every single state. So
audit America. Amen. That's well said. Yeah, this was how CNN edited the voter audio.
Bear is painted as a conspiracy theorist. Look at the on-screen chyron. Quote,
James O'Keefe.
Quote, Trump voters on his unproven voter fraud claims.
Yeah, knowing that the claims are unproven was such a stretch, such a leap of logic.
Unquote. The implication, no evidence of voter fraud whatsoever. When Camerata asks for proof, the panelist has no answer. Or so it seems. Here's the raw audio from immediately after the edit.
I have seen busloads. I guess I can't cite the busloads that I've seen and where I've seen them and stuff, but on television I've seen it. And I mean, has anybody looked into like what James O'Keefe has done when he went undercover to these various polling places? I know, but no, he went in and basically was ready to vote as somebody else. Nobody asked for ID. I was actually a poll watcher in New Jersey, and I saw what was going on there. There were college students voting, and there was basically, you use a, that's right, or you use a provisional ballot, and it's never challenged. They just put it right through. I mean, this is common.
At the moment Baer is about to cite the evidence to support his claim, CNN ends the clip. The piece suggests that Baer did not have a legitimate answer to Camerata's question. In actuality, the answer was cut because it didn't fit their narrative. This is a textbook lie of omission. Baer is...
There you go. Yeah, they say when you do interviews, you should record yourself, just so you have the stuff in proper context. Yep, and here you go. This is what happened when a Tim Walz appointee emmed the only lawmaker who tried to stop the fraud in Minnesota. Is it starting to make sense yet? Remember that? This assassin came and took her out. Two Cynic says, if the government can have $18 billion scammed from it without anyone noticing, then we the people are paying way too much in taxes. Thank you. Yeah, here's daycare owners in Minnesota with no clients. Oh, it's infuriating. This is the guy that was with Nick Shirley. Can we get his name?
To see all these transportation companies going around, and it was always a Somali driver. And I said, well, that's great. They're out there transportation, contributing, but they never had a passenger, never, ever once. And I said, well, what is all this transportation? What are they doing? So then I found out that in Minnesota, they have something called non-emergency medical transportation.
Just sign up for all these things and then just let all the money roll in.
So this is going to the dentist's office, therapy, whatever it might be. And I said, well, how many of these companies are there? And the research came back that there are 1,020 of them, and more than 800 of them are Somali owned.
And by the way, why can't it just be an Uber account?
Nobody from the state of Minnesota ever cross-checks to see if any rides were ever actually provided. All they did was write the check. I started to see all these transportation companies.
That sounds stunning. Why can't they just have Uber user accounts? Seems like that would be a lot better. What's this story? Andrew Beck says the Minnesota scandal has the potential to demoralize Americans on the scale of what Charlie Kirk's assassination did, unless the government responds with teeth. Prosecute, imprison, denaturalize, deport, make restitution, show Americans they are a nation, not an economic blood bag. Well said. And that was the extent of what I wanted to show you on our Instagram feed. Don't really. Here, we're going to do a lightning round. By the way, just a quick reminder, Rumble Rants, Super Chats, Patreon subscriptions, Rumble subscriptions, and YouTube monthly subscriptions are available. We're at the end of a month, so this is a great time to sign up and help your boy and to toss something into the tip jar as well. All right, let me show you here. That was Inception level. I was watching me inside of that screen, inside of this screen, on this screen. Whew. This is the Patreon link pinned at the top of our page on X at American_media_. Daily Signal gives us a daily reminder that mass immigration without assimilation gives you what you're seeing in Minnesota. Ohio is coming next. The same Medicaid fraud patterns already surfacing in Columbus, says Mahek Cook, and whistleblowers are coming forward. Time to audit America. Oh, this is the lady saying, get into Columbus.
Come see Columbus, Ohio, fraud investigators. If you go to the government-assisted housing areas, you will find that most of the housing is Somalians. I would say about...
Why aren't there American-born Americans getting help if there's going to be help? What value does it bring someone that can't pull their own weight and is going to be a drag on the economy? You bring people in who are going to live up to their own expectations, handle their own stuff, and be a net positive. It's what Gad Saad calls suicidal empathy.
80% of the government-assisted housing in Columbus is occupied by Somalians.
That cannot be true, that 80% of the public housing assistance in Columbus is full of Somalians. Not native-born Columbus residents, native-born Americans, Ohio residents. That is insane.
And the parking lot is occupied with a whole bunch of brand new cars. And the women walking around have designer purses with EBT cards, and they have Apple iPhones stuck up in their hijabs. Yeah. And then go to the businesses that are owned by the men. Because see, what happens is when you have a restaurant or when you have a little corner store and you have a couple of wives and you only have to claim one, then that means the other wives get EBT cards, and you can use those EBT cards to buy food for your store or your restaurant. Yeah. Or what you can do is you can get a home health aid company. And then you only hire Somalians to work the home health aid. And what you do is you just make sure their paperwork looks right. It don't have to be right, but you just make sure it looks right. And then you send them off for those home health aid jobs. Y'all don't want to talk about fraud.
Yeah, I really want to talk about fraud. That's astonishing stuff right there. All right, but that's where I'm going to leave it for today, folks. Keep your eyes peeled for when we end up going live next. We'll try tomorrow noon. I think 3 p.m. for Strictly Football. I'll keep you posted on that one. And Deb from Sacramento, look at that. Thank you so much. A super chat. What's a super chat? LOL. Happy New Year, Barayana. 2 snaps and a twist. Thank you, Deb. Appreciate you. All right. Well, and hello, Kenneth, who jumped in as well. All right. Got to run for now, but I will be back tomorrow at noon. We're going to talk about more of the craziness. So much to always talk about, but a lot of different perspectives there. And they're all pretty relevant. So tune in tomorrow, and we will keep covering what there is to talk about. And if you want to reach me, like I said, share a message on X and tag at American_media_, and we can get those messages and maybe include some of that in the show. So signing out for everybody out there in the TNAM universe. I appreciate you. I love you, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care, everybody. Peace.
Your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.